August 9 is the International Day of the World Indigenous Peoples. This year, the focus is on Indigenous and HIV/AIDS.
In commemoration of August 9th, the International Day of the World's Indigenous People, which focuses this year on Indigenous peoples and HIV/AIDS, Deputy Secretary General Asha-Rose Migiro led an observation at UN headquarters August 10th. Migiro read a message to mark the day from Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, emphasizing the vulnerability of Indigenous peoples to HIV/AIDS.
Indigenous peoples also tend to suffer from the low standards of health associated with poverty, malnutrition, environmental contamination, and inadequate health care. With that in mind, this year's observance of the International Day focuses on the threat of HIV and AIDS. It is essential that Indigenous peoples have access to the information and infrastructure necessary for detection, treatment, and protection.
The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which was adopted in 2007, underscores the rights of Indigenous people to all social and health services and to the enjoyment of the highest standards of physical and mental health.
Indigenous peoples are already disadvantaged and subject to stigmatization, and often the publication of data suggesting high levels of HIV infection can increase the stigma Indigenous peoples experience, even though there might be high infection rates in other parts of the population.
The International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples was established in recognition of the first meeting of the United Nations Working Group on Indigenous Population in Geneva in 1982. At the event in New York, remarks by senior UN officials and Indigenous representatives were followed by a performance of Crimean Tatar singing and dancing. TITV Weekly.